check out our shirt on Tespring.
Hey folks, what's going on? A little road trip series not to notice. Today I talk about this news video of a group of people were drinking outside. All they did was wrong drinking, but how the cause, how it did, was totally a disgrace, the whole thing, and how people don't trust cops. All the guy was, he was a little gypsy. He accepted that he got caught and had an issue trying to get his wallet out of his back pocket. For him to do that, he had to stand up, take the wallet. For some reason, the cops told him to sit down many times. Reason they choose violence over somebody wasn't a threat, wasn't making a sense. Here's a video.
When San Rafael police officers Brandon Nail and Daisy Mazariegos confronted a gardener we call Mateo over an open beer, they asked for his ID. Mateo tried to explain he had to stand to retrieve it, and it quickly escalated.
Take out your ID, dude.
I know. I have to take it out, but I have to take it out to take the ID out, you know?
Sit down. Just sit down.
I know, but you have to understand.
Okay.
Hey.
Stop.
You can see from his body cam that Officer Nail forces Mateo to the ground over beer bottles, punches him in the nose, and pushes his face into the rough pavement. It took District Attorney Lori Fragoli just 3 business days to charge Mateo with felony resisting and several misdemeanors. She dropped the charges after finally seeing this video. Nearly 7 months since the confrontation, Fragoli still hasn't decided whether to charge the officers with excessive force.
Why is it taking so long to make a decision about what to do with those officers when they could make such a quick decision involving a member of the community?
In his letter to Fragoli, the gardener's attorney, Charles Dresso, expresses concern that the DA has a conflict of interest that has obstructed the prosecution of the officers who abused my client, basically arguing that any action taken against the officers will have repercussions.
Then those prosecutions that are ongoing involving those officers come into question, and any past convictions that those officers were involved in as witnesses or investigating officers come into question.
District Attorney Fragoli again refused my request for an interview, and the statement she emailed today did not address why her review of the case is taking so long. She writes, "We continue to thoroughly examine the evidence to make a decision on whether criminal charges will be filed. We will be transparent about the results of this process as soon as a conclusion is reached." On a different track, the city of San Rafael announced this week that an independent investigation of the incident will be done in 1 month.
The final report will be delivered to the police chief, who will make a decision about what discipline, if any, to impose against the involved officers.
But the city attorney says the report will not be made public if the officers are cleared, only if it finds they use excessive force, if Mazariegos failed to stop Nail from using excessive force, if the officers made a false statement.
Or, in the fourth exception, an officer's use of force caused Mateo to suffer great bodily injury.
Medical records provided to the I-Team show Mateo did receive serious injuries. One thing that continues to bother some San Rafael citizens, the officers remain on paid administrative leave. The latest records available show for 2021, Daisy Mazariegos made $96,000 in pay and benefits. Brandon Nail took home almost $192,000.
So the victim of the officer, he suffered a broken nose, a concussion, and a messed up shoulder because they couldn't wait a couple seconds to grab a wallet from his back pocket after he explained to him in English and Spanish that he needs to get it. And he was cool about it. He was getting a little annoyed, pretty natural. He's trying to explain to somebody what's going on, being aggressive towards you, they're not listening to you, and how quickly the cops choose violence. So in the video, it's mostly the male officer doing the most damage, punching him, but the female officer did hold him down. There's one part of the video that she yells, "Stop it," but we don't know that she's saying towards the male officer or the victim human rights. Here's another news video of the victim telling his side of the story.
This week marks 1 year since San Rafael police officers took down a gardener who had been enjoying a beer on a remote street with friends after work. That man suffers several serious injuries.
And in just the past half hour, that gardener, Julio Lopez, filed a federal civil lawsuit against the officers, the police, the department, as well as the city.
That's right. I-Team reporter Dan Noyes was the first to break the story last year, and he's back now with the very latest. Dan?
Well, Kristen and Larry, both of the officers involved in that violent confrontation no longer work for the San Rafael police. The department says the terms of their departure are confidential, so we don't know for sure whether they were fired or left on their own. The lawsuit against the city of San Rafael, their police department, and former officers Brandon Nail and Daisy Mazariegos was filed today in federal court, San Francisco Division. Why is this a federal case?
Julio's rights were violated in a very violent way. Going back to the founding of our country and the Bill of Rights, we all have the right against excessive force, unreasonable searches and seizures. That comes from the Fourth Amendment.
Anthony Label represents Julio Lopez and his wife. Lopez had wrapped a long day of gardening when he stopped for a beer along Windward Way with two relatives with whom he works. The officers arrive, ask for his ID, and when he stands to retrieve it from his front pocket, they take him down.
Sit down. Just sit down.
But you have to understand.
Okay.
Hey.
Stop.
Medical records show Lopez suffered a broken nose, a concussion, and a shoulder injury that required surgery.
When I was in the ground, I thought I'm gonna die, because it's, all the blood, it's really scary,
In our exclusive interview from May, his wife told me the ordeal has changed Julio.
He's not the same. He has not like the same confidence as before. He tried to be the same because he's a man that loves his family.
The complaint lists more than a dozen causes of action, from unreasonable detention and arrest, excessive force, failure to properly train the officers, assault, battery, negligence. It says a reasonable law enforcement officer would not have used aggressive tactics over something as minor as an open container of beer.
Maybe they shouldn't have been drinking a beer there, but that wasn't conduct that in any way justified the level of violence that these officers inflicted on him.
Label tells me Julio Lopez wants his day in court for a jury to decide the case. Neither Nail nor Mazariegos responded to my texts and phone calls for comment. A spokesman for Police Chief David Spiller emailed me that the department would not comment on pending litigation. The San Rafael city attorney did not respond to my calls for comment. The former officers now face felony charges of assault by an officer under color of authority and false statements in a crime report. They're both scheduled to make a court appearance coming up next month. That's in the criminal case for the officer.
It shouldn't went to this level. Maybe they got a ticket for open drinking in public, or they should not go to this kind of level of some guy getting his, beaten up. And he is a victim of these two officers. One thing I forgot to say, the male officer took a picture of the victim in the police car. He had to open the car, take a picture with his personal phone. So the two officers were suspended would pay for a year. One of the reasons, because one of them reported the victim tried to reach for the gun. But once again, you're trying to defend yourself. You use anything you can to defend yourself. It's human instinct, my opinion. But once again, this should not went to this level of it, especially open containers, and the guy was not making a threat towards them or doing anything that indicated that he's going to do any kind of threats towards the officers. Well, this goes back to Rodney King, what happened with him with the LA sheriffs. But once again, we need our eyes open, because cops believe that they're above the law. They can beat the crap out of us and torture us and try to get away with it. Best way of putting this. And here's the final report about this, and I'll give more opinions after that.
by a public officer with great bodily injury and making a false statement in a crime report. I tried speaking with both defendants. First, Brandon Nail, who has grown a beard.
Anything you want to say to the public about what you did that day? Are you ready to apologize to Julio Lopez about what you did? Any comment at all?
I asked the other former officer, Daisy Mazariegos, about this moment when she yelled, "Stop."
Stop!
When you said stop on that recording, was that at Brandon or was that at Julio? Are you ready to apologize to Julio Lopez?
Attorneys for both former officers gave me an idea of their planned defense.
We have ample evidence that this case cannot be proven beyond a reasonable doubt because the force wasn't excessive and there were no willful misrepresentations.
She's very much looking forward to being exonerated in this case. And I think that's what's going to happen. I think it's very unfortunate that the district attorney has chosen to do this.
The gardener, Julio Lopez, had to be there as a witness, but as court wrapped up, he couldn't face the former officers.
I went to the bathroom, because I don't want to see them, because I feel scary, about them, I don't want to see their face.
It's not something that he's comfortable doing at this time. He's still experiencing some of the trauma, the assault, and some things are triggers for him, and seeing the officers face-to-face definitely would have been that.
The preliminary hearing has been delayed for 2 weeks to work out a potential conflict of interest. It appears Brandon Nail's attorney may have represented someone who will appear as a witness in the case. There's also a second track on this case, the federal civil rights lawsuit filed by the gardener. So these two cases moving forward ahead.
Yeah, I know you're following them both.
You got it.
Thanks, Dan, very much.
The two lawyers, they're saying the officers are full of shit. There was excessive force. There was no reason for him to hit him and punch him the way he did. Even watch the video of it, you can see the male officer hitting him behind the head. Once again, this guy was not a threat to him. He was trying to explain to him, can't reach for his wallet. All he had to wait a couple seconds to pull it out. And they were not in danger. It really frustrates me how quickly cops will make up crap up and say, I'm in danger and we're going to beat the crap out of somebody. It's all about power and their egos. And we need to really work on the cops, point of view. It only takes 6 months to become an officer in the United States in most places. So I'll be following this, updated. Let me know what you think. Maybe do better next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.
If you hate cops just because they're cops, the next time you get in trouble, call a crackhead. I'm John Kennedy, and I approve this message.